Okay, so now we're on question 6. In the xy plane above, line L is parallel to line K. What is the value of P? Alright, so whenever we have two lines that are parallel, we know that their slopes are equal. So slopes are equal. So our task here is going to be to find the slope of line L first. And our slope formula is change in y over change in x. So we would do 2 minus 0 over 0 minus negative 5. 2 minus 0 is 2. 0 minus negative would become a plus 5. So that's our slope for the first line. Now we do the same for the second line. We want to create an equation for the slope. So change in y over change in x. So we do 0 minus negative 4 over p minus 0. So this would become 4 over p. And then we set that equal to the slope that we found before, because again, all slopes are equal. So for parallel lines, that is. We cross multiply, we get 2p equals 20, and therefore p is equal to 10. And that's answer choice D. Question 7. Okay, so right away I know I'm going to need to use my exponent rule 2, which is my subtraction rule here. So I would subtract the exponents. Okay, I could rewrite it like that. And then I could just set the exponents equal to each other. Now from this point I see that the left side is factorable. So whenever something looks factorable, it's always a good idea to try to factor it and see where that leads. Now in this case, we know that a plus b is 2, so I can actually replace that with a 2. Right? So 2 times a minus b equals 16. Then I divide by 2 both sides. I get a minus b is equal to 8. And luckily that's exactly what they were looking for. So answer choice is A. Next, the measure A in degrees of an external angle of a regular polygon is related to the number of sides by the formula above. If the measure of an exterior angle is greater than 50, so we have A being greater than 50, what is the resulting number of sides? So n is equal to question mark. Alright, well let's start by letting A equal to 50 and see where that leads. Alright, so we get this equation, then we divide by 50 on both sides. And we get n equals, zeros will cancel, and I think that would equal 7.2. Now if you're not sure how to do it, you could do a long division. 5 goes into 35 7 times. Subtraction gets you 1, so that's 1/5, which is also known as 0.2. Okay. Now, n is equal to 7.2, so that's how many sides that there would be if the angle was 50 degrees exactly. But if we have an angle that's greater than 50, right, then we're going to be dividing by a larger number, let's say 60. That would give us, 6 sides, 360 over 60. So we know that this number is going to go down, if anything. So the next nearest integer is 7. So let's go with that choice. The graph of the line in the xy plane has a slope of 2, so that's going to be m. And it goes to the point x, y, 1, 8. The graph of a second line, okay, so right away, let's start with line 1. We can find the equation of the line, y equals mx plus b. We know y, m, and x, we're trying to find b. So we plug in 8 equals 2 times 1 plus b. So subtract 2 from both sides, and we will end up with 6 equals b. Now we know m and b, so we can put everything together. We get 2x plus 6. That's line 1. Now let's talk about line 2. So for line 2, we have the point 1, 2 and the point 2, 1. So this time we have to do a point-point situation where we need to actually figure out the slope for ourselves. So we could do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And that gives us 1 over negative 1, which is equivalent to negative 1. So there's our slope, and we can use this xy as a y and x for the equation. So we have x, y, and m. So we just have to plug in. We get 2 equals negative 1 times x, which is 1, plus b. 2 equals negative 1 plus b, add 1, and we get 3 is equal to b. So what that is, y equals, if we put everything back together, m, which is negative 1, x, plus 3. So we have now our two equations. And the question reads, if the two lines intersect at the point AB, what is the value of a plus b? Okay. So what we'll do is we'll set these two equations equal, because that's what we do when we're trying to find the intersection point. So 2x plus 6 equals negative x plus 3. Then we would add x to both sides. We get 3x, and we can minus 6, we get negative 3, so x would equal negative 1. So that's the x coordinate where they intersect. Now we would plug the y coordinate. So we could plug in, for example, into this equation, and we would get negative 2 plus 6. So 6 minus 2 is 4. So the y value is 4. So when I combined negative 1 with 4, I get 3. So that is answer choice. And you have to be careful not to choose this, right, because this is only a partial answer. That is the answer for x. But we're not looking for x, we're looking for basically x plus y. Okay. Which of the following equations has a graph in the xy plane for which y is always greater than or equal to negative 1? Alright, so let's do a quick sketch of a xy plane. And we'll draw in the line negative 1 here. Okay. And so we want to be always above that. Now, if we know what this looks like, basically, of course, since this is no calculator section, we cannot use our graphing calculators, unfortunately. So we have to know what the absolute value looks like. And absolute value starts with a V, the second word, so it looks like a V, right? And the second one is a quadratic, so it starts with QU, so it looks like a U, okay? This is absolute value, and this is a quadratic, which of course means a second order polynomial. So those are what the parent functions look like, but we have to also apply the shifting. So here we see a negative 2 transformation. That is a vertical shift, okay? So we have to actually move the entire picture down 2 units. And when we do that here, we notice that this now will dip below the negative 1 line. And that is not allowed. So answer choice A is eliminated. Now, for answer choice B, we have a quadratic that also dips below and has a vertex at negative 2. Well, that's no good. So that's also eliminated. Now, if we skip down to answer choice D, it also has the negative 2 there. And so we have a cubic polynomial, which has sort of this look to it. Okay. And, of course, that will also dip below, and that's no good. So then if we consider choice C, notice now the minus 2 is on the inside of the parentheses, which means it's not a vertical shift, it's now a horizontal shift. And so that's actually a shift to the right by 2, because when you're inside the parentheses, it's always opposite of what direction you would think. So we'd actually move to the right by 2, and then draw our standard parabola. Okay. So this one, notice, does not dip below the line, therefore it's our correct answer. Next, which of the following complex numbers is equivalent to this? Right, so the key thing to realize here is that I is a radical, and we're not allowed to have radicals in the denominator. So we have to do what's called rationalizing, which means we would multiply by the conjugate on top and bottom. Conjugate just means switch the middle sign. So when we multiply the top, we're going to have to FOIL. You get 3 times 8, which is 24, and then I can do the inner, minus 40i, outer, minus 6i, and then the last would be plus 10i squared. Divided by 64, plus 16i, minus 16i, and then minus 4i squared. This will cancel. And these two will combine to be minus 46i. Minus 46i. Now we have to realize that I squared is equal to minus 1, right? All you have to do is square both sides of this equation. So then you can actually substitute in -1 in these two spots, okay? So let's do that now. So we'll substitute in -1 wherever we see I squared. Okay. And so now we'll have 24 minus 46i, and then 10 times -1 is -10. And here we'll have -4 times -1, which is +4. So that would equal 68 on the bottom. And the top would be 24 minus 10 is 14 minus 46i. Now we realize that there's 2's everywhere, so we can factor out a 2 from the numerator. That'll give us 7 minus 23i. And we can also factor a 2 out from the denominator. It would just be 2 times 34. These 2's will cancel. Now the 34 we can interpret as a common denominator, so we can divide by it on each term separately. And we end up with this, which is matching up with answer choice C.